In this video, I'm going to thrift flip an old pair of skinny jeans. I got these diesel jeans on eBay, and because of the decline of interest in skinny jeans, they were only £4. For this project, we're going to need measuring tape, seam ripper, thread, scissors, pins, a pen, and a ruler. We're going to start by roughly measuring the length we'd like for our skirt. I then added an extra 15 centimeters to that just to make sure that we had enough fabric. You can then trim off the legs of your jeans. Then, using your seam ripper, you're going to unstitch the crotch of your jeans. Then you want to unstitch up the back seam to remove the curved bit. With the curved bit unstitched, we're able to fold in our fabric and make that stitch a little more straight. As you can see here, I'm unstitching the fabric a little more to be able to tuck it in and create a straighter line. And with your fabric tucked in, we're going to pin down this new seam. Then we're going to do the same for the front of our jeans. So here we're going to unstitch the seam up until the bottom of the zipper. With that unstitched, we're going to be able to tuck in our fabric and create a straight seam. Again, just as we did in the back, we're rolling and tucking our fabric in and then pinning down our new seam, making sure that the fabric is lying flat and straight. At this point, you can try your skirt on and decide where you'd like your hem, and use pins to mark the new hem. Before doing any sewing, I used my measuring tape to make sure that I placed my pins evenly around the hem. Once you're happy with the length, you can now trim away the extra fabric, leaving enough to hem. I left 3 centimeters. Before sewing the front and the back seams, I'm going to trim away the extra fabric that I tucked in. You want to leave about 1 centimeter of fabric so that we can do our double layer of top stitching. As you can see, there should be quite a bit more to trim away in the back. Before doing any top stitching, I'm going to sew those 2 layers together with a zigzag stitch. This step can be skipped, it just helps create a cleaner looking finish. So for the front and the back, I'm just going to zigzag those 2 pieces together. I'm now ready to do my 2 layers of top stitching. As you can see, I'm just trying to mimic the seam that already exists on the jeans. I'm then going to do the same for the front seam. So again, zigzag stitching those 2 pieces together and then going over it again with a double layer of top stitching. With those seams all stitched down, the next step is going to be ironing the hem. So I'm going to fold it over twice, iron it, and pin it down. And then with a straight stitch, I'm going to sew my hem. With the skirt all hemmed, we're ready to move on to our cargo pockets. We're going to make the pockets of the leftover fabric from the legs of our jeans. Because the black fabric's hard to see, I decided to make a test pocket out of a different fabric to show you guys. If you feel confident, you can move straight to the real fabric for your pocket. Start by measuring out the size that you'd like for the pocket, and then add a 1 centimeter seam allowance around that rectangle. You're then going to mark out a pocket flap, which should be the same width as your pocket, but any length that you like. And again with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. And you're going to cut 2 of those pocket flaps. We're then going to cut out the top of our pocket, which is going to include the detail of the pleat. And we're going to keep the same length, and we're going to add a little extra to the width. The pleat can be as big or as small as you like, just make sure that when you're done folding it, the 2 pocket pieces are the same size. You're then going to mark out your pleat and cut. We're then going to cut out a 3rd piece the same size as the pocket flap that's going to be used as the facing. So we have the back of the pocket, the front of the pocket, the facing, and 2 pocket flap pieces. You can now use this pattern to cut out the real pieces on your fabric. I'm going to continue sewing, however, in the beige so that it's easier to see. Don't forget to mark down your darts with little slits so that you can see where you're going to be folding your fabric. Now taking your 2 pocket flap pieces, you're going to place right sides together and sew along 3 of the edges, leaving the bottom of the pocket open. You're then going to trim away the 2 corners to help create a sharper edge when you flip the right sides out. You can also use a needle to pull out those edges. You're then going to iron this flat. The next step is to fold and iron your pleat. As you can see, the pocket flap should be 1 centimeter smaller on either side. You're now going to stitch down your pleat on the top and the bottom and do a zigzag stitch to close your pocket flap. The next step is to attach the facing piece. So you're going to place your facing on the right side of the piece with the pleat, and you're going to sew along the 3 edges. You could do a zigzag stitch to finish off the bottom of your facing as well. You're then going to trim away those corners to be able to flip it right side out. And when you flip that piece, your seam allowance is going to tuck in with it as well. So now you've got the pocket flap, the top of the pocket attached to the facing, and the back of the pocket. The next step is to attach the top of the pocket with the back of the pocket. So placing right sides together, we're going to sew the two just at the bottom. To make for a cleaner finish, I folded over my 1 centimeter seam allowance twice so that there are no raw edges poking out on the inside of the pocket. I then ironed this down. You don't need to be folding it over twice, but you can if you like. You're then going to fold 1 centimeter of the back of your pocket in the other direction from the seam allowance that you just folded. Then folding the pocket in half, you should see that all of your seam allowance is tucked in. You're now ready to pin your pocket onto your skirt. Again, I'm sewing it onto my test fabric, but you could be sewing this onto your real skirt. You're also going to pin down your pocket flap with the raw edge facing down. You're now ready to sew along where you just pinned. Sew along the 3 edges of your pocket and along the edge of your pocket flap. The reason for the backing piece of the pocket is because I wanted my pocket to be able to dangle below the hem of my skirt. As you can see, I did reinforced stitching at the top of the pockets. I then want to sew down the back of my pocket onto my skirt. It might have been a little easier if I did this before my top stitching. And then I'm going to top stitch the top of the pocket flap. And with those 2 stitches, my pocket's all done. I'm now going to do all the exact same steps with the real fabric, and I'm going to make 2 of these pockets. Again, using the extra fabric from the leg of the jeans. So as you can see here, I'm going to sew down the top of the back of the pocket before I do my top stitching. And now I'm going to stitch down my 2 pockets onto my skirt. The final step is to take in the waist of the skirt. This step can obviously be skipped if the skirt already fits. So I'm going to start by removing the waistband just at the center back of the skirt, and then I'm going to unstitch the top back seam of the skirt. I'm going to use the same tucking in technique that we did at the bottom of the skirt, so rolling in all the extra fabric until it fits. I'm then going to pin that down and sew with a double top stitch. I have a more detailed video on how to take in jeans if you'd like a more clear explanation. The final step is to readjust the size of the waistband. You're going to start by removing the belt loop and then cutting the waistband in half, unstitch any of the seams, and then repin it. And then you're going to sew where you pinned. If the waistband now aligns with the new size of your jeans, you can trim away the excess fabric and pin it back down. Don't forget to reattach your belt loop, and then you're going to sew it all back together. And you're all done! Thank you for watching, and if you liked the video, please subscribe.